The largest ISA pot ever recorded was over £6 million, built entirely within a stocks and shares ISA. Now that's some serious compounding. There's over 600 billion currently held in ISAs across the UK. That's enough to buy every single Premier League club and still have change for a few Greggs sausage rolls. The most popular ISA is the cash ISA, with 70% of all accounts held in them, because Brits love safety more than we love complaining about house prices and the weather. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the ISA, the history of the ISA and where it all started. That's right, the individual savings account, the government's way of saying, all right, keep some of your money tax-free, but not too much of it.
I love ISAs. In fact, I don't think anything could be nicer. 20 grand a year, tax-free savings is enough to give anyone some cravings to building wealth. I love ISAs. In fact, I don't think anything could be nicer.
Maybe a sausage roll, maybe even the vegan variety. Isn't it great?
I'm sold on ISAs, and I will do it every single day. I love ISAs.
Now, ISAs aren't quite as ancient as Stonehenge. Now, ISAs aren't quite as ancient as Stonehenge, but they've been a cornerstone of the UK savings since 1999. Back then, the Labour government under Gordon Brown introduced them to replace the old personal equity plan and the tax-exempt special savings account. The idea, a simple, tax-efficient way to encourage savings. That sounds good, right? Well, over the years, various governments have given the ISA a bit of a makeover. Some changes helpful, others not so much. Let's take a look how different ISAs have messed with improved the ISA system. So, it all started in 1999, the birth of the ISA under Labour and Gordon Brown. Initially, it was a £7,000 allowance. There was two choices between cash ISAs and stocks and shares ISAs.
See, I agree with Nick. I agree with Nick. I agree with Nick. We want.
Then roll on the coalition government. So in 2011, they actually introduced the junior ISA. This replaced the Child Trust Fund, so allowing junior ISAs to let the parents save tax-free for their kids. In 2014, the NISA revolution occurred under the Conservatives and George Osborne. George Osborne rebranded the ISAs as the new ISAs, which weren't that different. But the biggest change was merging the cash and stocks and shares ISA into one flexible account. The annual limit at that time raised from 11,520 to 15,000, which meant more tax-free savings. In 2015, just a year later, the Help to Buy ISA was introduced by George Osborne as well. First-time buyers could get a 25% government bonus on savings towards their deposit. This was cancelled in 2019, disappointing many. In 2017, lifetime ISAs were introduced, which then took over the Help to Buy scheme. There was an interim period where they crossed over, then the lifetime ISA took over from the Help to Buy scheme. This allowed you to save money for your home or your retirement, and the government gave you an extra 25% bonus up to £1,000 a year. But withdraw early for anything else and you face a 25% penalty. Basically, give it with one hand, take away with the other. In 2019, the flexible ISA was introduced under the Conservatives, May and Boris Johnson. Now, with some providers, you could withdraw money and put money back within the same year without impacting your allowance for that year. This was an amazing thing for most of us savers. This allows you to dip in, dip out without impacting your tax-free benefits. Then the biggest change, and one that was worrying me a little bit, happened in 2024 when they finally introduced the fractional shares. This was a game changer for stocks and shares allowance. Rather than needing to have 600,000 in Berkshire Hathaway for one single share, you could now buy a fraction of that share. And these, prior to 2024, technically weren't allowed in ISAs despite many providers actually offering them. This, going forward, will make investing much more accessible for beginners and allows everybody to get access to the same great offerings. Let's see how ISAs have evolved over the years and the key rule changes. So transfers between ISA before 2014, you could only move from stocks and shares ISA to cash. Now you can freely switch between them. So if the stock market's looking a little bit dodgy, you can park your cash for a little while in your cash ISA. There have been several allowance increases, so starting at 7,000 in 1999 all the way up to 20,000 today, meaning you can shelter a lot more money. This isn't far off inflation beating, meaning really we're not able to save that much more money. Then there's the inheritance tax changes. Since 2015, a surviving spouse can now inherit their partner's ISA allowance because nothing says romance quite like tax-efficient estate plan. Then there was the Innovative Finance ISA. Introduced in 2016, these allow peer-to-peer lending within an ISA wrapper. This is way riskier than your classic ISAs, but with potential for much higher returns. Now, ISAs feel like a very British thing, but other countries have their own tax-free saving accounts as well. Let's take a quick look at some of those. So, in the US, you have the famous Roth IRA. If you've listened to any finance YouTuber from the States, they bang on about it, and I can see why. As with the ISA, you invest with the post-tax money and withdrawals are tax-free. But you have to wait till you're 59 and a half to withdraw the money without any penalties. Apparently, Americans love an oddly specific retirement age. Then in Canada, you have the TFSA, the tax-free savings account. Very similar to the ISA with a flexible savings allowance. Unlike the ISA though, unused allowances roll over each year. Come on, take notes, that's amazing.
In fact, I don't think anything could be nicer.
Now that's something I'd get behind. Then over in Australia, down under, they have something called superannuation. Try saying that 5 times quick. Anyway, more like a pension than an ISA, but with tax advantages. You can't access it until retirement, so it's the financial equivalent of locking away all your sweets until you're 65. Then in Germany, they've got the tax-free savings allowance. They don't really have a direct ISA equivalent, but investors get a larger tax-free capital gains allowance to make up for it. The system is far more complicated, but well, you know, that's Germany. After all these changes, are ISAs still what they used to be, and are they worth it? Abso-bloody-lutely. Whether you're after a simple cash ISA, want to invest in a stocks and shares ISA, now with fractional shares, or using a lifetime ISA for your house deposit, the ISA remains one of the best places to park your money and let it grow. The key is to use your allowance wisely. Once the tax year ends, you lose everything forever. So if you can afford it, try not to let that go to waste. That's it. That's a whistle-stop tour of ISAs, how they started, where they're going. Hopefully the allowance gets increased for those of you that are able to, and keep on saving. Thanks so much.
I love ISAs. In fact, I don't think